Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Deaths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, I'm going to go over some stuff, but not in like full detail. I'll save that for when they come out, but we are going to see a good number of this stuff throughout this upcoming months, like this upcoming year, basically, like the rest of this year. This is going to be one of the things that should show up around either the end of this month or the start of next month, which is the Battlefield of Soldiers. This is going to be some very interesting content because it is high level stuff, essentially. Now, it says that you should be rank 120 or higher, but given the fight for Battlefield, like the fights for Battlefield, they're not that demanding. They're like, I would say, around the difficulty of Guild Order. But generally, there's two things you're trying to get from these. One is Lucent weapons. Well, I see why it says rank 120 actually now that I'm really reading this paragraph, and that makes sense because Project Weapon Break is where you get some of the materials, and then there's the raids where you do want to be rank 120 and also have some seriously strong teams. But the two things you get from all this: Lucent weapons. These weapons are hit and miss because of the fact that they can be very, very powerful. They have abilities that will increase the final damage under certain conditions, like if you have enough HP or not, or like below a certain amount. Like they'll either just flat out increase something like, say, ability damage or burst damage or normal attack damage, or they'll just increase the overall damage if you have either HP above a certain amount, which is good for Vigor, or below a certain amount, which is good for Pride, and eventually Rebellion, which will be... Rebellion will act like Pride, but it goes to Vigor frame, more or less. So Pride and Rebellion will be a good mix together. Lucent weapons can cater towards that with an interchangeable skill that you can change whenever you want. And then on top of that, they'll also give 30% in Assault and Defender. The catch is, both of these, like all these weapon skills, will not work on characters that do not like that type of weapon. So if you got the Lucent Sword, all the Souls and Kamihime have to like that sword for it to work for them. Now you can do a team where you have, like, say, one character likes one weapon, two like another weapon, and two like another weapon, but it will only work on the characters that like that weapon. So if you got, say, Medea, then two sword lovers and two axe lovers, only Medea's getting a boost from a glaive, while the two sword lovers get a boost from the sword. If that makes sense. Lucent weapons can be powerful, but because of the restrictions on the Kamihime list that you get with that, as well as Souls, the team compilations may not be all that functional. They may not have any synergy, and some flat out cannot do it with SSR characters. Like, they'll have like maybe 3 SSR characters, maybe 2, or worse off, limited SSR might be included in the list and you may not even have them. Lucent weapons are very situational. They can be very powerful, especially because of that final damage increase. Remember, final damage, if you remember 8th skill measurement cone, increases the damage after everything else is calculated. It will calculate assault, it will calculate the special stuff like Vigor or Stinger, or even special attack, which is its own multiplier. It will go through all the multipliers, all the damage calculation, and then it will add the final damage boost, meaning it will bypass caps. But again, situational, because of how you have to do the lineup. Make it even worse, Lucent weapons, if you decide to skill level them, they need the most skill experience in the game. Guardian weapons come nowhere close to how much you need for Lucent. Lucent will need, I think, over 100,000 when Guardian weapons need like, I think 20 or 30,000, something like that. It's a lot. It's a lot. So it'll take a lot to really push them further. And then on top of that too, is that it'll be quite a grind for that. The loosened weapon list is all of this stuff. You need a lot of this. If this looks kind of familiar, it's because it's a step-by-step process, just like the S-Class Souls. And it's quite grindy in its own right, especially considering the fact that the best way to get the most out of this weapon is by doing the Titan raids for some of the materials. Some of these materials only drop from the Titan raids, and Atlas is going to be the best drop rate, but it's also the hardest fight in the game. Well, not including Heroic, which you got to solo, but at least Heroic is optional. If you're really trying to get loosened weapons, you're going to want to do these. And you may or may not need Atlas for the other thing we're about to talk about, but you need a lot of stuff for this. Some of this isn't even in game, but we'll get it eventually. And interestingly enough, they have R and SR break limit items in order to boost these weapons. Those can be bought with Eidolon orbs. But the fact that they actually gave you a reason to use those, I guess they're trying to pull from any type of resource now at this point. But this is where things get a little bit more interesting. Some of the materials you need for the loosened weapons also need fragments of weapon types. And those you have to pretty much dismantle your weapons or something like that. And that will give you these fragments in order to use for that stuff. The Gacha SSR is going to be the stronger ones, more or less. So there's like Eidolon orbs, and now there's technically weapon orbs if you really look at it. But the second thing, Machine Beasts. These, they're less situational than Lucent, but if you're going for a Lucent weapon, you're going to want these as well, because they're going to boost the effect of Lucent weapons in sub-slot. And that's regardless how strong they are. But these start off as SR and then eventually get upgraded into SSR. But even as SR, they have a special effect where they will boost loosened weapons, even if it's just the base copy and no upgrades. On top of that, they will also deal fixed summon damage, which can actually get pretty high. I think it's 200,000 at the start, and then it goes up to 1 million when it's SSR. The thing with these, though, is that we will not be able to fully upgrade them until later on, because Battlefield comes out long before we're able to do step 5, even if you manage to get through all the other steps. But I'll get to that in a second. The thing with these Machine Beasts, too, is the fact that when you get them to SSR, they also have scenes. So, any of you that are playing for waifus, you got something else to look at when you get them to SSR. And on top of that, if you set them as a main Eidolon, they also act like 100% Eidolon when you get them maxed out, so there's that. I think it's 110% for fire, water, wind, and thunder, and then 100% for light and dark. But, yeah, 100% elemental, basically. Now, they have a long Chorva list of their own, which also includes Eidolon orbs. Now, you might be wondering what this blank space is. That is a treasure plus. And again, I will get to that later, but if you know the term treasure, you know where I'm going with on that one, without me saying anything. But yeah, each of the Machine Beasts are going to be based off of each element, so there's that. But you will have to fight Titan Hunt for the stuff in order to get max power for both of them, by the looks of it. Like the Photon Crystal and then some little like Rainbow Aurora Cube, I think it is. You're going to need the Titan Hunt for that. So, but I mentioned Treasure Plus. That is because there are Ragnarok Plus raids for the Guardians. We've nicknamed them Guardian Plus or G Plus. Any of you who know how hard the Guardians are, that's nothing compared to what's going to happen later down the line. They will appear one by one, and JP Sad doesn't even have a Guardian Plus for Oak or Oach, however you pronounce her name, but the Phantom one basically. But the other elements, they have Guardian Plus, and before I even get into each one, and I'm going to quickly glance over it, I'm not going over everything they really do, but before I get into each one, if you do not have elemental advantage, you're going to have a problem. Those of you that know the elemental advantage mechanic for the guild competitions, it's in Guardian Plus. It's also in Heroic. If you go off the elemental advantage, you will be at a huge disadvantage, basically. Because anything but the elemental advantage will have the damage you deal reduced by 90%, and debuffs will not stick at all. And it's also made worse by the fact that these are resistant to quite a lot of debuffs, including attack and defense debuffs. If you want to reduce the damage they deal or increase the damage they take, you have to use elemental ones. So yeah, there's a lot with these raids, but I'm just going over a quick glance for each one. First off, JP Sad doesn't even have their health, but the total amount of health you have to deal with is definitely higher than the Guardian raids, so keep that in mind. They also do not have their defense measurements, so they may actually have higher defense than 10. It depends. You'd have to do some testing to find out. But they are, without a doubt, much harder. You see all this stuff for Ragnarok Plus for Phaleg, the fire one. Now look at all this. And all this. And they used to be harder too, but they got nerfed. I don't think we're getting the nerf versions out the gate, but we'll find out eventually. They are incredibly dangerous fights. You want to build up your teams as much as possible, and this is the main reason why you want to build up all 6 elements, because you're not going to want to take anything other than water against Phaleg Plus. You're not going to take anything but thunder against Ophiel Plus, and so on. You're going to want to build up all 6 elements. And some of these have some really incredibly tedious gimmicks, like this one, I know for a fact you have to kill Phaleg and her helper at the same time. If you do not, then they're going to get much stronger, and it's going to be very dangerous, if not an instant loss. But there's Ophiel. Bether is an interesting one because of the fact that she may not have that much health, but she's completely immune to damage. The way to win the fight is to kill her helpers, and then she'll end up just killing herself. Like, her Ragnarok's already got a whole bunch of, like, different stuff, but then you go to Rag Plus, and it's like, oh, jeez. Yeah, she only has, like, 10 million HP, but she's literally immune to any and all damage. She'll remove the immunity off herself and then set up in, She'll remove the immunity off herself and then set up and, deal enough damage to instantly kill herself after you kill her helpers. But her helpers are also the same tactic as foul egg where if you don't kill them both, the other one's going to get a lot stronger and a lot more dangerous. So yeah, you really need to pay attention to a lot of these fights. To make it even worse is the fact that that elemental thing where they just don't, they basically, you deal such crap damage if you're not using advantage, and you will never debuff them if you are not using advantage. So yeah, and they all have it. They all have it. All eight, all the I don't know why I was about to say 8. All the 6 elements, not including Phantom. I don't really consider that an element because Phantom is like its own thing. But all the elements have a Guardian Plus. The Phantom one is the only one that does not right now, but they probably will. And then on top of that, there is the fact that these runs are more limited than the normal Guardians. I think it's only 2 per day that you can open up, and you need to clear the Guardian raids to open up a Guardian Plus, because you need the treasures to open up these Guardian Plus raids. But if you do these Guardian Plus raids, they will not only give you those treasure pluses to upgrade those machine beasts, the treasure pluses are also used to final break limit Eidolons, which is going to be a thing later. As well as I do believe they're needed for the Guardian weapons to get final break limit as well. And the Guardian weapons, their stats don't increase that much, but the weapon skills are still allowed to hit skill level 30, so you're probably going to still want to do that. Especially some of the better weapons like the full guns, because those are very, very powerful, and skill level 30 is just going to make them even better. But these raids are very, very dangerous. They will most likely be the second hardest raids in the game when they come out, because Hyperion is still going to be very, very difficult, but Hyperion is still considered weaker than these raids. And I've already covered Hyperion and Atlas. I'm not going to do that again. I don't feel like doing that. Like, there's a video on those too, if you want to see what to do with those. Just know that Hyperion's been nerfed to where there's some debuffs that actually will work on Hyperion, which are attack and defense ones mainly. But anyways, I mentioned final break limit Eidolons. Let's go check some of those out. I will not go into full details with a lot of these, but you will see some of the stuff that they get. First off, huge stat boosts. It looks like they get like a close to 30% more stats across the board. It looks like they could get somewhere around 30% more stats or so across the board, period. Somewhere around that range. But they will also get a sub effect, meaning like, you know how there's a main effect putting them in a main slot? Now there's an effect for putting them in a sub slot. You won't get the main effect, but you will get the sub effect. So they're always giving a bonus effect, regardless of where they're placed. On top of that, the main effect gets increased. Like, some of them will get like some seriously good effects, so you're probably going to want them. Like, for instance, I'm already seeing a few where it's like you got increased resistance towards getting debuffed. You've got increased triple attack rate, increased recovery rate. Maybe the attributes will slip and go up. Like, there's a lot of different stuff. Not all of them have final break yet, but they'll probably get it later. I'm guessing they're going to save that for Och Plus. But who knows. Some of the more interesting ones that did get a final break are the 100% Eidolons. Not the 140%, because they don't get it. They don't have it. The 140% ones do not have it. Nor do the Divine Beasts or the Kaisers. But the 100% Eidolons, except for Diablo, she'll probably get it with Phantom. The 100% Eidolons end up getting boosted up to like 140% max when you final break them, along with the fact that they, in the subslot, they still give elemental attack. So final break limiting them is very, very good. And then there's these ones, which are the de facto best main slot Eidolons in the game. When they come out, they will never be surpassed. I don't think they'll ever be surpassed. The catastrophes will have SSR versions. If you remember, they dropped from the ultimate and below raids as SR, and their effects are okay at the start, but they easily get passed up by other Eidolons. When it comes to their SSR versions, they are the best. Period. These are gacha Eidolons, though. You will never get these without pulling on the gacha, and their rates are understandably the lowest in the game. But getting one is amazing. When they come out, they will be the Eidolons to reroll for, bar none. Because of the fact that they each will have a stronger version of the Guardian effect. Regardless of how strong they are, like regardless of break limits, it will multiply your weapon skills of the matching element by 50% instead of 40%. They are instantly stronger than the Guardian Eidolons. And to push things even further, based on their break limit, they'll also give bonus assault on top of that result. Meaning, say you're like me and got a grid that's got like over 200% assault and like 50% vigor. All that's like literally doubled with 2 of these Eidolons. And then you're getting bonus assault on top of that, based on the break limits. At max break limit, it is 100% more assault. So, taking all that I said, if I get, say, the light one, fully upgrade her to max limit break, find a friend one that's also max limit break, and use my same weapon grid. My weapon grids are doubled in skill effect, on top of giving me 200% more assault. That is incredible. And they also have a powerful summon effect that is a damage cap increase outside of the normal caps. I think it's like 20% or so. But that means you can get max exceed and have 2 million burst damage. These will up it to 2.4 million before the soft caps kick in. They will up the soft caps of all your damage stuff outside of anything else. It just counts as a buff that works outside of the weapon skills. That is insane. And to put a little bit more icing on the cake too, they're starting to shell out event Eidolons as permanent ones in a gacha, like permanent versions of them. These are pretty strong in their own right. Their main skill is kind of iffy, strong but still iffy. It's like assault based on the element, and then defender that's also based on the element as well. But their sub effects is what really gets my attention, because it is a lot of defender to put them in the main slot. It's like 50% more defender, but here's where they really tend to shine, in my opinion. Regardless of the break limits, they will multiply the defender on your weapon skills of the matching element. And it's by 1.2 if you final break limit them, because they can final break limit the minute they're released. So if you say let's say you have 100% defender. You got the water catastrophe, max limit break. Then you got Caliph plug, final limit break. You're getting 2.2 times your defender, which should put it at 220. Yeah, I don't think I need to say much more about that. These, in my opinion, are some of the best sub-slot Eidolons. Especially considering the fact that some of these abilities they give are incredible. I forget exactly what Robust is, but I remember that was a pretty good buff from Caliph Plug. There's one where it works like Vigor, but with combo attack. There's one that literally gives Vigor. And the newest one they have on this list, Vlad Tepes. revival to all allies, which means either she will. I don't see the I didn't see the effects. So I don't know if it's an auto revive or a direct revive, but that's always helpful either way, especially in the raids where it's very, very dangerous to fight. Atlas comes to mind easily for that one because of the fact that if you lose anybody in Atlas and you can't revive, they're gone for the rest of the fight because you cannot use an elixir in that raid. So having revivals actually would help for that, just in case something goes wrong. But honestly, a lot of these Eidolons are very, very powerful, even out the gate, and some of them get even more powerful as you final break them. So it's like, they're gacha Eidolons, that's a huge downside, but they're strong, and some got far stronger. I mean, seriously, just look at some of these stat boosts. Some of these stat boosts are incredible. And some of them did go way past the 30% increase I mentioned. Like, just look at Kieran's boost. She jumps from almost 2,800 attack to almost 4,200. She is nearly doubled. That is incredible. That is just insane. And these are some of the best effects in the game, bar none. Easiest ones to come to mind, I cannot stress this enough, the catastrophe Eidolons when they become SSR, like when you're able to pull for them, best reroll targets in the game, bar none. Right now, it's the 140% Eidolons and 100% Eidolons. And I would still suggest Diablos, because you do want to have at least a little bit of a boost towards all your elements, and Diablos works like at 80% if you use her right. But when the catastrophes come out, throw all that out the window. Roll for a catastrophe. If you're gonna restart, that's what you want out the gate, a catastrophe Eidolon. They will be the de facto best. Period. Bar none. No excuse. I cannot stress that enough. Damage limit increase outside of the normal weapon stuff. And again, it's soft caps in this game. So when you hit a soft cap, your damage output gets drastically reduced past that point. These can extend the soft caps. And it's for 2 turns too, for each summon, I remember. But then the weapon skill boost is just so good. Just so good. It is stronger than a max limit break Guardian Eidolon out the gate. And even if the Guardian Eidolons get max limit break, I don't think they're getting much higher than 50%. They might get 60%, but they still won't get the bonus assault, which doesn't help too much. It depends on what happens later on. I get the feeling these guys will get a final break once OG Plus hits, but who knows. Machine Beasts, like I said, situational, but honestly, when you do get them to SSR, they will deal 1 million damage when summoned. Like, they'll deal damage to enemies, they'll bonus 1 million damage, and you can use them without even waiting. Like, there's no wait time. You see it says 0 turns, they're just summonable out the gate, so, you can do like 6 turns of 1 million if you wanted to. It's incredible. But, that would actually be a little bit helpful for some of the content in the game that makes it a little easier to grind. So it's up to you. I'm still going to go for them. But anyways, that's all for that. And the only other thing I can show you, I have to go into this, and keep in mind, there's some for every element. I just don't know what they are. So I'm going to try and find one on an element I don't know. Oh yeah, right. Before I even get into those weapons, big thing. Later on, Ultimate Catastrophe will drop Final Break Limit weapons. These will be very good for free players. You can grind them. Period. You can grind them and as much as you want. And some of them are very, very good for their respective element because of what Phantom Effect they'll lead to. And that's also the point where Elaborate gets boosted, so it actually would be worth getting at least 2 Elaborate weapons from this, so you can Final Break Limit those and just cap Elaborate with just 2 weapons. But, here you go, right here. The ones I was looking for. For fire, it's going to look like a spear that will give the vigor effect, and a bow that will give the pride effect. Which is ironic, considering the fact that there's a union event bow that gives pride. But these are the 50 Dragonic Eye weapons. You need 50 Dragonic Eyes to trade for these. That is not an easy feat to reach, but it's still doable. It'll take a long time, but it's doable. These weapons, absurdly strong. They have some of the best base stats in the game among weapons. On top of that, they will give assault and either defender or vigor. Not defender. Either vigor or pride. One of the two. So you'll get assault plus vigor on one weapon, assault plus pride on the other. If it has pride, it also gives a special skill effect that it multiplies all the pride on your grid by 1.5. The vigor one does the same for vigor. Now you see why you really want these weapons. There's just two major catches onto them on top of the 50 eye weapons. They are stupidly strong, but you only get one copy of each. You have to use the SSR break limit items to get these to final break. There is no other way. None. And to make it even worse, their skill experience is the same as the Lucent weapons, so they will take a lot more skill leveling compared to the Guardian weapons. These weapons are the main reason why I said in a few videos already to try and stock up on skill experience, and the best way to do that is to optimize how much you want to skill level each weapon. So that way they take up less space in your inventory. I'm literally sitting on like a good 42 SSR I'm about to throw at one of these, because I don't need those SSR weapons. These are stupidly strong, especially with the right setups. But they're so hard to get. And then some of them have some very interesting summon effects if you put them on your souls too. Like, I could honestly see someone putting this spear on a soul and giving barrier to the whole team. Or even patience to the whole team with the bow. Because patience increases your defense the lower your HP gets. Ironically, it's on the pride weapon for fire. So they get tankier as their HP drops, thanks to this. And there's some for all the other elements too, because there's one of each for each element. So you're going to want to get this for your main element, bar none. But after that, maybe you want to really think about what you're doing. As far as I can tell, Patience is on the burst effect of all the Pride versions, and Barrier is on the effect of all the Vigor ones. So, that's something to know. And they are strong. They are very, very strong. They are worth getting. Particularly, I remember the white one had a glaive for its Vigor, and there's the Vishnu glaive that gives a lot of Vigor. There's also EA glaive that gives a exceed too, so you really can make a very strong glaive grid. It won't have any healing boosts like Ascension, but a glaive grid entirely just made up of glaives, and then put a Phantom glaive on top of that. You'll boost your base stats so much with that. That's a well tactic. I would still need to pull EA in a few of her weapons in order to do that, but it's, oh my goodness, it's strong. It's not the only weapon setup that you probably would want for a white if you spend money, but still. But yeah. And then on top of that, I remember their free-to-play ultimate weapon happens to be a hammer. And Light has had a few access to hammers too, so for those of you that did not make the hammer grids before, you're going to be able to do that pretty soon. So that's something to remember. But anyways, this video is going on long enough. I've basically covered what I wanted to cover. The only other thing I should mention is the fact that pretty soon we should be getting an event where it will have an interesting storyline, so keep that in mind. But it will be basically an event for Och, the Phantom Guardian, and she will become an event Eidolon. Her event version is much better than her normal one. Her normal one, you have to mix element for assault. If it was something like, say, elemental, or even like SSR Diablos, where it's special, maybe it would have been worth it, but you're mixing for assault and you don't want to do that. So honestly, she's just a glorified Phantom Golem, but her event version, so much better. Her event version is basically 55% elemental attack to whatever element you want it to be. It's not all at once, given how she works, but it's to whatever you want it to be, because you have to match sub-slots in order to get that 55%. But it's much, much better. It'll be worth it. That's all I'll say for that one, because I'll probably cover it more when event happens, because we're getting pretty close to that point. And we're also getting close to another voting event for your favorite Kamihime, so have fun with that, guys. But that's all for now. Again, this video is going on long enough. I just wanted to cover some of this stuff because it is very, very, very important, because this is like next level player progression for a lot of this stuff. So you're going to want to pay attention. Like, you're really going to want to pay attention. And also, it's another reason to work on all 6 elements, because if you're going to want the final break limit, the Eidolons of the element you use the most, you need to use the element that they're weak to as well. And if you want to truly optimize that element, you need to do the same for the rest. So you'll end up going through a cycle if you want to optimize all this stuff. Especially considering if you want to even have a very good chance of taking on the heroic fights later on, you gotta use elemental advantage for those too. And they have enemies where their health amounts will get close to or even surpass Atlas. So they're going to be very hard fights. You have to do those alone too. And I do believe you cannot use an elixir for those either. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this is going to definitely come soon whenever it happens. It depends on when it happens, because some of this stuff should be pretty soon, like very, very soon, like within a few weeks. And some of this will still take like months, because I know if you want some of the later Catastrophe Eidolons, they're going to come out much, much later. I don't even think the Dark one comes out until the end of the year, or maybe even next year, the Dark Catastrophe one. But they'll come out in bits and pieces, or in some cases all at once, because that's what Battlefield does. But anyways, that's all for this. I'll cover this stuff more when it comes out, because I always do that. Bigger details and all that, so you know what you're doing. But just keep your eyes open, guys. That's the main point of this video. Keep your eyes open. But that's all for now, guys. More will come soon, and take care.